Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Reva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpalam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita, Tvameva Bandhu cha Sakha, Tvameva Vidya Dravidam, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Who has come? How do you?
Hi, my dad.
Come in, you're late.
Hi. Yes, sorry.
You want a floor chair?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
So do you want text to follow along?
Are we doing Bhagavad Gita?
Bhagwad
Yes.
Gita, we're in the 18th chapter.
No. You want to get the one that they follow?
Yeah, the Shalok we listen.
The shloka will be this.
We're on shloka 12 of the 18th chapter. Is that right?
So they tell me, yes.
Is that right, Mark?
Yes.
All right. So to catch up people who haven't been here, Krishna starts out with a discussion about these two terms, sannyas and tyagaha. Sannyas means renunciation. Tyaga means abandonment. There's a subtle difference. Sannyas is pretty much something I choose to do. I'm going to give this up. Tyagaha is when things essentially leave us because we have no longer any concern for them. I always like to think of a baby playing with toys and then something distracts them. You know about this now, don't you?
Yes.
And they get interested in something else. And what happens to their attention for the toys? Gone. Gone. There's no active will to do that. So they're close. Why is sannyas and tyaga important? It makes no sense unless we understand perhaps the most important concept in Vedanta, in yoga. What does it feel like to want something you don't have? It can be a person, a place, a thing, a situation. Someone isn't doing life right. I don't have the money or the car or the object. It has a flip side, which we call aversion. I don't like this person. I don't like what they're doing. I don't like this object. I don't like this politics. And the third element of it, of course, is moha. What's moha? Delusion. I have no idea really what's going on. I was talking with a young man today, and his boss got angry at him. And he had to admit that he's got what I call a glass face. Whatever he's feeling, it just shows on his face. He doesn't like his boss. So he walks around the office with grumpy face, rolls his eyes at the boss, and totally unconscious about it for a long time. Moha, delusion about what are some of the causative agents. So again, back to our fundamental idea. The state of the mind, this vikshepa shakti, this kama, this spriha, this vancha hurts. Then Vedanta says, all right. The fool says the solution is to try to change people, places, things, and conditions. Get a different house, get a different job, get a different spouse, get a different car. And yoga says you can do that if you wish, but the problem is never out there. I have the klesha, the affliction. And this raga, this vesha, and this moha has as its cause avidya, ignorance. I do not clearly see what's going on. When I do get what I want, when desire and object of desire become one, I think the person, place, thing, or situation is what made me happy. When in truth, what it did is temporarily remove the longing. We experience this state called the Anandamaya Kosha in its fullest manifestation every night in deep sleep. Everybody loves a deep sleep. And the more problems you have, the more you like a deep sleep. And no person, place, thing, or situation is causing the bliss of deep sleep. It's the absence of the craving mind. This is why people want to take a Valium, or they want to go through a bottle of wine in the evening, or smoke a joint. All these are ways to get rid of the restless, irritable, discontent mind. And they think by going into unconsciousness, it's going to solve the problem. It never does. Yoga says there's a way out. And the way out is sannyasa tyagacha. Renunciation and abandon. And let me give you a real world experience of this. Most of us have this. So you're in traffic and you're driving someplace and you need to be there by a particular time. And the traffic is heavy and you're stuck in traffic. And then you're gripping the steering wheel and you're trying to move the traffic with your heart. Anybody have that feeling? Yes? No?
Yes.
And then you finally realize, I'm going to get there when I get there. You text the person and say, no idea when my ETA is. Then you go, ah. So you didn't solve any of the problems. You let go of the longing. And then peace comes. So this is what Krishna is working on in this chapter. How do we be in the world and not of it? As the Master Jesus said. How can I deal with the duties of my life and let go of the illusory notion that the reason I'm unhappy is life's not behaving? And there's a very famous phrase in Yoga Vasishta. Why try to cover the world in leather when you can wear shoes? All right. Any questions about this frame? It's absolutely fundamental to understand. Otherwise, many of the practices of yoga make no sense. All right, help us out, please.
One question. So if yoga is not happening, and at what point do you decide to move towards sannyas?
I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
I wouldn't worry about it. If you're suffering, work on letting go of two things. Going back to what Shankara says in Vivekachudamani, there's this very famous section of the qualifications of a fit student becoming adhikari. Remember that section? Yes.
Yes.
Vairagya. What's his definition of vairagya? Usually translated as detachment, dispassion, renunciation. That desire, meaning we don't achieve it overnight. To give up attachment to all experiences gained through the senses. And any personal sense of self, any identification, starting with the body up to and including the form of Brahma, the creator, meaning I'm powerful. It's a practice. But the way you approach it, stay with this axiom. It is a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha. I'm the one with the dosha. Now, that does not mean that the world and its people are not oftentimes quite wrong. I'm not saying they're right and I'm wrong. Other people do some pretty weird things. There's no question about it. But if I'm upset, I'm the one with the problem. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's how you know there's work to be done. So I like to compare it to driving the car. If you're driving the car, notice if you go like this, it makes the car go. You're driving the car and the check engine light comes on. What does that mean when the check engine light comes on?
You gotta go for service.
There's something wrong with the car, take it in to be serviced. So we have a check hridaya light. Check your heart light. If I'm disturbed, I need to look under the hood. Where am I attached? Where am I identified? Always. There are no exceptions. It's axiomatic. If I don't start from that premise, then what will I do? I will try to control the world. I will try to fix, change, control, get rid of other people. other situations. And the klesha is mine, which means I may change the situation, but it will come back because it's not outside. It's never outside. This is what the Buddhists call mundane right view, which is a deep understanding of karma. Understanding that my actions, my attitudes are causative. What I experience in the world is the effect of that.
For clarification, on
Yes.
a practical level. So, for example, if someone is in a physically abusive relationship, that's a tough situation.
Yes,
Anyone would say that they should leave that situation.
I would agree with it.
So how does what you just talked about apply in that situation?
But if you are in the abusive relationship and you're all caught up in self-pity and you're attached to your abused ego, for example, why won't they leave? They're attached to something. You can be attached to your misery, attached to your pain. Does that make sense?
That does, yeah.
Yep. So if off the very first date, someone says something abusive, you might say, gee, I don't have people in my life who talk to me that way. I think you should find someone else to date. You know, if it's an arranged marriage and you find you're in an abusive situation, you stop and say, I don't put up with abuse. Period. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to fight. You don't have to scream and yell. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, you hear this term all the time now among people doing psychology, having healthy boundaries. Who's heard that term before? A boundary is not about the other person. A boundary is something I set for myself, for my own dignity. So I'm talking with someone and they say, my drunken father just won't respect my boundaries. I tell him not to call me when he's drunk and he keeps doing it. I say, well, do you engage him in conversation? Yes. And I keep telling him not to do it, and he won't respect my boundary. And my solution to them is, no, you don't respect your boundary. If drunken daddy calls up drunk, you say, gee, dad, it sounds like you've been drinking. Let's talk when you're sober. Click. That's what you do. You don't get upset about it. I tell my students, I'm not going to take phone calls before 8 o'clock in the morning. I have some who forget about time changes and they'll call it 5:40 a.m. or 6 o'clock a.m., 7 o'clock a.m. Guess what? The phone's turned off. I don't leave it to them. I respect my boundary. 8 o'clock, I'll look at the phone, 3 phone calls I need to answer. Okay. Is that useful?
Fair.
So Jim, in that situation,
if you do get upset, if I do feel upset, does that then is that like the check engine light?
That's the check engine light. So what do? Before you engage in the external situation, see if you can solve your own problem. Walk away. Ask yourself. And what I find very useful, if you look at the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, in the second chapter, the first sutras, one of my favorites. We may have talked about this last week. Tapas Swadhyayeshwara Pranidhana Kriya Yoga. Did we do that?
Not last week, but we've done that before.
Let's do it, because it's very powerful. Tapas is the austerity. Swadhyaya has a different meaning in Raja Yoga than in Vedanta. It means a psychological inventory. It literally means self-study. Means I take a look. What are my kleshas? What are the Buddhists call them? Defilements. Christians would call them sins. 12-step groups call them character defects. Sometimes you hear the word dosha, a defect. So first I do the inventory. If I'm upset, step back, walk away from the situation if you need to. Where am I identified? Where am I attached? Am I being selfish? Am I fearful? Am I being dishonest? Am I trying to protect self? Am I trying to control the situation? Am I trying to have it my own way? And understand it's never about the other person. Ever. Once I've taken a look at that, then I do the tapas, which means I don't allow my mind to go down the road of the klesha. We don't have a whole lot of control over the first thought, but the thoughts that follow are what I do have control over. I can turn my mind to helping others. I can chant my mantra. I can think about the Lord. That's the tapas. That's the tapas. And we have a word in the tradition called vritti. Who can tell me what vritti means?
Thought vortexes.
It's a thought vortex. Yes. So you know what it's like when you get triggered and you start to spin on it. It's such a vivid word. But we can, and then we get, most people don't want to admit that self-pity is a klesha. Nobody has to sing by my problems. This is why a yogi has to be very we've been studying Gita now for 40 years. In the very first and second chapter, Arjuna, I don't want to fight them. They're my cousins anyway. My grandfather and our Shri teacher were there, and underneath all, what if I lose? And he says, I'm going to go meditate in the forest. And what does Krishna say to him? He says, don't be plebeian. They never translate that word. It means don't be a wimp. Don't be a wuss. Don't be effeminate. That's that quality to it. Get up and fight. Do your duty. Get over your cheap self. Yeah, but neither. And then Krishna goes, oh God. Nothing left to do but enlighten the man right here on the battlefield. There's no other solution. That's the whole rest of the Gita. And we only do that with God's help. What is Ishvara Pranidhana? Trustful surrender to God. This is too big, God. I try to let it go and I don't seem to be able to. I need your help. God help me. In the 4th chapter and the 5th chapter, we have this idea of the yajna. You give everything to the Lord, to Krishna. Give your problems to Krishna. I can't solve this myself, Lord. I need your help. Tapas, Vajayeshwara, Pranidhana, Kriya Yoga. Patanjali calls it yoga in action. Kriya Yoga. It's not easy, but the first step is we have to own our own kleshas. If I'm disturbed, if I'm upset, if I'm angry, if I'm hurt, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha. That's axiomatic. And that person, place, thing, or condition is guru. That's the material I have to work with right now. And it never works to blame other people. It never works to hope or try to change other people. You can ask. It's a lot easier to step back and detach. Is that useful? Mm-hmm. Anybody else have a question on this? All right. Let's do our shloka.
Anishtam mishram cha Anishtam mishram cha Trividham karmana phalam Bhavat yaginam pridhyana Tu sannyasinam kvachit. The threefold fruit of action, evil, good, and mixed accrues. After death, only to those who have no spirit of abandonment, never to total relinquishers.
So, if we are attached to the fruits of our actions in this life, we have evil actions. I don't like the word evil. I don't think there are evil people. Even Hitler, Mussolini, Saddam Hussein, these are not evil people. This doesn't mean they are not doing evil actions. It means they are hurt or frightened, and the solutions their minds present to them don't work. When have we ever found that fighting, dishonesty, domination has really solved much of anything? Maybe temporarily there's a little bit of victory, but in the end it doesn't work. Because the end is the means in a different form. Fighting produces fighting. Trying to control situations produces situations where you feel controlled. Always the same. So you can look at it from the Hindu anthropology of reincarnation. If you move through the world with violence and greed and destruction, you'll come back in a lower life. But we don't even have to look that far. You can only look at this particular life. So again, this person with whom I was talking this morning, their boss, this is the first time he's been a manager. And he gets angry at employees and attempts to manage by intimidation. Now, many of you have been in the corporate world. What basically happens to a manager who gets screams and yells at people and manages by intimidation? What usually happens?
Doesn't work.
Team leaves.
Hmm?
Team leaves.
Yeah, you lose your workers, or you get reported to the higher up. People push back. Karma can come back rather fast if you think about it. And more importantly, when you and I behave in that way in the world, how does it make us feel? Usually it makes us feel pretty lousy. So those are the mental repercussions of papa, stupid actions, not evil. So they go to the Papaloka, they go to Naraka, the hell realms. If you have punya, you do meritorious things. There's an old slogan, do you know how to build self-esteem? Do esteemable actions. If we understand the law of karma, it makes perfect sense. But no matter how good you are in this world, the fruits are temporary. So in that larger cosmological view, you go to Punyaloka, some swargas from heaven, but it's temporary. Come back to Manushaloka, the human realm. Okay, let's see if I can find another way to live in the world. How to be more intelligent. Again, when I was talking with this person, I frequently will reference the three questions that Yoga Vasishta answers. Who am I? What is this world and how has it come about? What we're dealing with in the 12th chapter of Gita is, how do I live my life? Which is another very important question. Don't be a jerk. It's pretty simple. All of the yamas and niyamas, all these various character traits and their opposites that we've been getting, all boil down to ahimsa. What is ahimsa?
Non-violence.
Hmm?
Non-violence.
Non-violence, non-injury. And it means outer directed towards other people, other things like the environment, but it also means towards your own psyche. How many of us have done, oh, I'm such an idiot. How could I have done that? I'm such a fool. Who's had those kind of ideas? That's violence. So all three of these experiences, where the actions that we do, either non-meritorious papam, meritorious punya, or kind of neutral, they still cause us to beyond the karma chakra, the wheel of karma. How do I get off? How do I cross over Maya? How do I get out? And this is Sannyasa Yagacha. Next verse.
Panchetaani mahabaho kar kara kara karanani nibodhame sankhya kritante proktani siddhaye sarva karmana.
Please chant along if you
Yeah,
wish.
please.
That's the way, that's the tradition.
It's not my normal job, so. Learn from me, O mighty armed, these 5 causes for the accomplishments of all action, as declared in the Sankhya Upanishad system, which is the end of all actions.
Yes. So we can step back a bit and we can look at the Vedas. Frequently, we divide the Vedas into the mantras, the Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Upanishads, but we can also divide it just into 2 sections: Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda. What is the Karma Kanda? How should we act in the world? And how can we be successful as egos in the world? It is for those people who are identified with the body, or identified with the body and the antakarana, the subtle body. And how can I act in a righteous way in the world where I'm successful, but I'm not messed stuff up? All that's in the karma kanda. When I've done that for many lifetimes, and I see, yeah, but it's 95 cents worth of work for a nickel's worth of happiness. In the beginning of Yoga Vasishta, Lord Rama goes out into the world and he comes back and he appears depressed. And that whole first chapter, it's so dark. Why should I do anything? The end result is only misery. No matter what you accomplish in life, the end point is you're going to die. Even mountains fade away. Even the stars burn out. What hope is there for someone like me? And he says to Vasishta, if you can't free me from this deep depression, I might as well just stop eating and die. And Vasishta says, this depression is not caused because of some calamity or some illness. This is mature vairagya. He has seen what the world can do and what it can't do. Shankara's definition of shama, that peaceful state of mind when it rests in steady contemplation of the goal, after muhur, again and again, detaching itself from the chaos of the sense objects through a steady observation of their defects. It doesn't mean, oh, I'm not going to bother to date so-and-so because they're probably ugly and it'll be crappy sex. Oh, I'm not going to bother to go for this particular thing because, I'll probably lose money anyway. No, it means to understand the deep defect of the world, which is everything is temporary. My mind changes, the world changes. As Nisargadatta Maharaj says, worldly happiness and worldly suffering are the same thing. If I am attached to the world for my happiness, I will suffer. No escape. Escape. And the mature Vairagi sees that, begins to ask, maybe there's something else. The Jnana Kanda of the Vedas say, true that. We're going to show you. Let's see what he says next.
Adhishthanam tatha karta karnam cha pratidam vividhascha pratak cheshta devam chaivatra panchamam. The seat or the body, the doer or the ego, the various organs of perception, the different functions of various organs of action, and also the presiding deity, the fifth.
Okay, let's parse this. And these are the seeds of the problem. The bija vasana, the mula sangraha, the seed attachment, the root attachment is deha vasana, this deeply rooted conviction that I am the body. All the rest of the structure of ego ultimately grows from that idea. Now, in fact, your direct experience is you are not the body. For example, can you all see the bowl on the table? Yes?
Yes.
Are you a bowl? You are the one who sees the bowl. There is a subject-object relationship. Can you see the water glass over here? Are you a water glass? No, you're the one who sees the water glass. We can go through all 5 of the senses, and you will see with anything perceived by the senses, there's a subject-object relationship. I am not those things perceived by the senses. Now let's go to the body itself. When you were a child, you had a little body. You went through adolescence and your body is changed again. Then you became an adult, your body is changed again. Some of us are in our, what do they call them, golden years. There's not a whole lot golden about them. But the body changes again. Do you not know the changes in the body? Do you see the phone on this arm of the chair? Do you see it's now on the other arm of the chair? You cannot see it change unless you are other than that which you see. Take a deep breath. Do you not know the breath in the body? Any of you have any aches and pains or tensions in your body? You know them. You know the body in the same way you know the bowl on the table. You are not the body. You are the witness of it. Such is the power of Maya. I have this bija vasana, the seed idea that I am the body. So after the body, what's the next idea?
The doer, the ego.
Yes, karta, the sense of doership, is a function, technically in the vijnana maya kusha, the subtle intellect. We get lots of different words for it in Vedanta. Probably the most common is ahankara or ahankriti. The root is kri, which means to make or to do. We get karma, karana, etc. from that root. Aham is simply the first person pronoun. So it is the kind of thinking that gives rise to various ideas of self. I'm tall, I'm short, I'm male, I'm female, I'm old, I'm young. I'm good looking, I'm ugly. I'm smart, oh, I'm so stupid. I'm lovable, I'm not lovable. And one of the most insidious ones, I'm right and they are wrong. All of these are various forms of ahankara. What is the truth about the self? Chidananda Rupaham, Shivoham, Shivoham, Shankara says. My form is bliss consciousness. I am Shiva, I am auspicious. It goes by other names. Chit, Chaya. Chaya means a shadow. It only really appears when you don't look at it. You shine the light of awareness, you go looking for I, thinking you're going to find an ego. It falls, and you find Chidakash, the space of your awareness. Chidabhasa, this reflection of consciousness caught, subtle intellect. My favorite one that Gaudapada uses, Jiva Bhavana, the attitude or the feeling that I'm a person. Now, it's just not thoughts of words going by. For example, when you have a dream, you have a dream body, which becomes the locus of perception from which you see the dream, but you have a dream ego too. But from the viewpoint of the waker, the dream body and the dream ego are not real. You're the waker sleeping in your bed. So we have the doer, karta. What's the next idea?
The various organs of perception.
Yes. So in yoga, we have 10 sense organs. We have what are called the Gyanindriyas or Buddhindriyas, the organs of knowledge or perception, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Information in. Then we have the Karmendriyas, the organs of action, hands, feet, tongue, anus, and genitals. Energy out. So the organs of perception here are part of what gives me this false sense of self. I see, I hear. And what I see and hear is different than what you see and hear. Makes me think. what I am is a solid individual. Next idea.
The different functions of various organs of action.
Yes, the 10 organs of action. I run to the store. I worked out at the gym. I spoke to so and so. So it's both the organs of knowledge, Jnanindriyas, Buddhindriyas, and Karmindriyas, the organs of action, are all part of what constructs this chit, jaya, this false self, this fake news self. Next idea.
And the presiding deity.
The mind. The presiding deity is the mind, which coordinates all of this sort of stuff. Mind is the world, and the world is the mind. All of this together, we call these the upadhis, the equipment. And I think it's me. And one of the major tasks of ego is it tries to protect and defend and solidify and justify this personal sense of self. And psychology can only take you so far. Go back to the conversation that I had with this fellow this morning. So the psychologist might say, well, let's reframe the experience. This was probably just projection by your boss. He was having a bad day, stuff like that, and you're okay. Even though we got mad at you, it's not about you. You're okay. You do good work. You're a good person. That's how the psychologist may approach it. What they're trying to do is remove ideas that I'm a bad person and then replace it. I'm an okay person. I'm a good person. I have self-esteem. And what yoga would say is, it's at best temporary. Yoga says, shut up and get out. Quieten the mind, be empty, get out. I renounce any personal sense of self. Remember, at the moment of realization, the Shishi doesn't say, I'm a knower of Brahman now, I'm a Mahatma. But she says, I am Brahman. Asangoham, asangoham, asangoham puna punaha, sachidananda rupaham, aham mevaham avyayaha. Unattached, unattached, unattached am I again and again. I am a form of pure existence, pure awareness. No sorrow touches me. This absolute. Yeah, I am. Then we go from Paroksha Jnanam. I read this in the scripture. Oh, yeah, I believe it. To practice. I thin out the mind till I can begin to see space between my thoughts. Someone used to call it tuning up the mind. And then with the attentive faculty introverted, Who am I? I can begin to see there's nobody there. Just that space of pure awareness, Chidaka. Where did the eagle go? It wasn't anything real. It's like, where does the dreamer go when you wake up? Are those all the elements?
Yes.
Okay, so those are the elements of what cause the sense of attachment, identification, my samsara, my miserable little life, my belief that I'm a person. That's what causes it. How do I get out? Go back to the chapter, the field and the knower of the field, Kshetra, Kshetranya. Remember that chapter? Who is it? What is it that's the knower of the field in all fields? I am not the body, I'm the knower of the body. I'm not the prana, I'm the knower of the prana. I am not the mind, I'm the knower of the feelings, the mind. I am not the buddhi, the intellect, I'm the knower of the flow of thoughts. I'm not even the Anandamaya Kosha. I'm the one who knows I was awake, I was in deep sleep, and now I'm awake again, and I don't remember a thing. I was there even for that. This is the Turiya that Mandukya talks about. It's not a fourth mind state. It's yourself. Don't believe me. Look. Next shloka.
Shariravan manobit karma prarabdhate nara nyayam va viparitam va panchaita etava.
Can you help him out?
Yeah. No, please.
Shri Rama, Shri Rama no Vipelpa, yet Karma Prarab Parabate Nara Naidam Va Pari Twamba Panchate Tasehetava.
Thank you. Nice chanting. And the translation?
Whatever action a man performs by his body, speech, and mind, whether right or the reverse, these five are its causes.
Yes. So we have auspicious desire and inauspicious desire, caused by auspicious vasanas and inauspicious vasanas. So whatever actions we perform, and the classic breakdown of actions, we do actions on three levels. At the level of the body, my physical actions. I punch somebody, that's an inauspicious action. I give money to a poor person, that's an auspicious action. Speech, inauspicious action. I call someone out, I flame them. What do the young people say now?
I don't know. I'm old.
When you say rude, unkind things, inauspicious, auspicious actions at the level of speech. When your speech is truthful, when it's kind, when it's necessary, when it's timely. And then karma at the level of the mind. Have you ever walked into a room and everybody's silent and you can tell that there was an argument going on? It's not just body language, it's mental atmosphere. Antithetically, you can go to an old temple in India where people have prayed for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. You can walk in and just feel the Shakti. Who's had that experience? See, the people who have prayed have left a vibration there. So these kinds of things, when we have auspicious thoughts, who here's done a Vipassana retreat before? I think with most of them at the end, they do the metta meditation. Is that right?
Yeah.
And did you do one of the Goenka ones?
Yes.
Okay, what was the metta meditation, the way they framed it?
I don't remember.
The one I was taught is, may all beings be happy, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be liberated. Some form of that. Is that kind of what they did?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you think they do it at the end of the meditation retreat? And why do you think they do it at all? It's karma. First of all, it's good for you. That energy will come back. But it also makes a difference in the world. They do it at the end of the retreat because the most powerful mind is the quietest mind. The end of the retreat, hopefully, your tapas, your abhyasa, has been fruitful. Your mind is slowed down. Then when you make a sankalpa, which is what this is, it's power. So the invitation here is at the level of the mind. Don't think that if you indulge in negative thinking all by your lonesome, caught up in regret, reviewing your miseries, fantasizing about hurting people, getting back at people, thinking, well, that's not an action and I'm not saying anything, so it's okay. Here Krishna is saying, no, not really. So we learn a discipline. All right, one more.
Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tuya pashyat yakrita buddhitvan nasa pashyati durmatihi. Now, such being the case, verily he who, owing to his untrained understanding, looks upon themselves with which is alone, never conditioned by the engine, as the doer, they of perverted intelligence sees not.
Yes. So if your upadis, the conditionings, I call it the robot, the android, the body, mind, and intellect. And because of misunderstanding, I think that's who I am. Here he says it's perverted understanding, wrong understanding, delusion, more, avidya, rooted in ignorance. There's no hope of any kind of meaningful, fulfilling life. Now, I had someone ask me if Vedanta is nihilistic. It sounds like when you read this stuff, giving up this and giving up that, that it's nihilistic. What about meaningful relationships and love and fulfillment in the world and all that kind of stuff? And Vedanta is not nihilistic. Vedanta says only the woman or the man of realization can really enjoy the world. All the rest of us were like a person at a banquet with a thorn in their throat. Because fear keeps us from enjoying. I'm afraid I'm not going to get what I want. I'm afraid I'm going to lose what I have. I'm afraid someone else is going to have more. Or if things are going well, oh, I hope it never changes. Change is a constant. So the paradox here is the person who's given up attachment to the world is the only one who can really enjoy it. Always in the now, always sporting with the world of name and form. Without any attachment. But they have another playground. It's Atmaramana. It's reveling in the self. So even if they are enjoying the world, Krishna has a wonderful example. It's like a drop of water on the tip of a leaf added to the ocean. But the person of steady wisdom, there's nothing wrong with the world, it's just too little. The human heart needs something insatisfying. All right. Any thoughts or questions about what we covered this evening?
I have a question.
Please.
Question was also, I have, you were explaining, I have, what's that? Inflection. When you explain that, even the bad thoughts, when I think of a situation and the ahimsa I do on self, I feel pity, or that's ahimsa I do on myself. And my question straightway came to me that during the day there are umpteen examples where I think, how did I overlook this? What I could have done? So that I do self-infliction because I feel bad. How
Yes.
could I overlook this?
Yeah. That self-infliction is not helpful.
Correct. So how do
you turn your mind to something fruitful? what are the things to do? The first thing you can do is turn your mind. First of all, you have to see the problem. Let me tell you a true story. I went to a nail salon several years ago because I can't see my toenails anymore because I'm blind. And the lady trimming my nails had this little thing for your cuticle, and she stabbed my toe and it started to bleed. Oh, it hurt. And she was horrified. So she looked at me and she took the little stabby thing and then she stabbed her own thumb. That's crazy. But she thought somehow if she injured herself, that's going to make my toe feel better. So the first thing to understand is this self-condemnation is not a solution. It doesn't work. It will not keep you from making mistakes in the future. So what's more fruitful? If you know you have that klesha, that your mind goes there, go to japa, chant the name of the Lord. Go to seva. Call your daughter up and say, what do you need? What can I do to help you? Think of God. Read some scripture. Do your best to take your mind away from it. And many of us will get false ideas of humility. Do you know what I mean? Humility is not thinking less of yourself. That's a form of pride. When I think I'm terrible, I'm worse than other people, that's pride in reverse. Real humility is thinking of yourself less frequently. Think of other people. Think of the Lord. And it's a practice. It's a practice. The hardest part is to be conscious, to go, oh, I'm indulging in injury towards myself. Okay, stop it. Come up again. Oh, Shivaya, oh, Shivaya, oh, Shivaya. Keeps coming up. Lord, I can't make it stop. I need your help. Ishvara Pranidhana. Give it to God. That useful?
Guruji, that was definitely. But the other thing I had my concern was, is it that I'm not fully mentally in the surroundings, what you say, place? Because if I overlook something, that is, hey, I was not completely aware of this, or I didn't make myself aware of everything around.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
But suppose I move this place, there's a jar, and I didn't take a note and it fell down and cracked. So that tells me there are two things. I didn't take aware note of the surroundings around me completely when I started moving.
Well, I'm not saying not to learn from our actions. Of course, we want to do that.
So what you explained better was that.
Let me see if I can give you an example. If you're a scientist and you perform an experiment and it doesn't work out, does it do any good to say, I'm a bad scientist, I shouldn't have done that, I should never do science again? No. You analyze what the problem was and you perform the experiment again, seeing if you come up with a better solution. So you want to be a spiritual scientist in life. So if you're inattentive to the child, something perhaps to correct. But beating yourself up doesn't fix it. It's not a solution. Change your actions. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%.
See, an ego says if I punish myself, that's a solution. And it's not. It's not, it doesn't change anything. When I was drinking heavily as a young man, I tell people I was a sorry alcoholic. I was always late. I was always missing appointments and standing people. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just a terrible person. Didn't change anything till I quit drinking. I made a change, and then I set it as a value. Become a man of your word, Jim. Satyam. Have integrity. And that was a practice. So that's what we do. We take these on as little practices, bit by bit. But the first thing we have to understand is himsa, violence towards my own self, my own equipment, doesn't accomplish anything. It's not that it's bad, it just doesn't do anything except make me feel bad. It doesn't solve any problems. Is that helpful? We can talk more. Anybody in Zoom land have anything they want to add or ask? All right, we'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.